Hello and welcome to Lois Ancestral. Today we are going to be developing a deeper awareness of scapegoating and also going into the solutions. So, what is scapegoating? Between people, scapegoating is where a group of people kind of turn against one of its members, labeling them as the problem, as the one causing all the pain, as the one who doesn't belong, as the one that needs to be fixed or changed, as the one who is mentally ill. So it is a group dynamic where all of the members are together and one member is excluded because of something that these people are thinking or saying or believing about this individual. So that's what it looks like in a group dynamic. Well, we're going to go into different dimensions of it later, but let's begin by talking about it like this in the group dynamic. So this can happen in a family system. Maybe the parents and the siblings turn against one sibling. So how does scapegoating look in the internal mirror? What is scapegoating internally? As a result of being scapegoated on the outside, the scapegoat creates an internal scapegoat. The rest of the scapegoat, the rest of the parts of the scapegoat, turn against one part of the scapegoat, the part that the other people are turning against, and labels this as the scapegoat. So this is the bad one, this is the wrong one, this part of me. So it creates an internal scapegoating of the part which is in the dynamic of the external scapegoat. What function does scapegoating serve? So between people, the function of having the scapegoated person is making them be able to see themselves as good and right, and this person as bad and wrong. It is also serving the function of we don't have to look at our dysfunction because it's all you. You're the problem. You're the one that needs to be fixed. In fact, we will help you. We will fix you. It's allowing many people in the group to not take responsibility and to put all the responsibility onto the scapegoat. Another function that this is serving is that it enables the rest of the group to not have to look at their pain, to not have to look at their part in the dynamic, to not have to see themselves as bad or wrong, to not have to own what this person represents inside of them. And so what function does scapegoating serve on the inside? When the scapegoat has mirrored the dynamic on the inside and they have this bad and wrong aspect within them, the scapegoat may identify with that aspect and call themselves, yes, I am the problem, I am the one who needs to be fixed, I am mentally ill. Will go along with identifying with the scapegoated aspect with a narrative that maintains confluence with the people who have scapegoated them. So internally, the function is to repeat the dynamic on the inside to maintain confluence with the people on the outside. Because if I identify with this part of me that is the problem and I agree with you internally, I get to maintain confluence with you on the outside. Now, what else can happen internally is that the scapegoat can reject this aspect of them and identify with the parts of them that make them good and turn against the aspect that makes them bad. So they can talk to the people in the outside and say, yeah, this part of me is bad and it does need fixing, and they can be agreeing with the people on the outside and be also turning against this aspect on the inside to maintain confluence. That's kind of like a triangulation. So they may either completely identify with this aspect and disown the ones that actually are similar to the ones on the outside, or they may identify with the opposite and scapegoat the part on the inside. But either way, there's going to be a split inside of these are the things that are good and acceptable, and these are bad and wrong. And I'm either going to identify with the good ones and turn against the bad ones, or I'm going to identify with the bad ones and disown the good ones. It can be complicated, like there can be many different attitudes that a person can take on the inside in response to scapegoating on the outside. In my experience, how I internalized scapegoating was to take on the persona of, yes, I am the one who is the problem, I am the one who has the problems. And so I couldn't see in myself the aspects of me that was similar to my family, because I am just identified with the opposite one, because at least I get to have these aspects as long as I talk about them how they talk about them. So yeah, I'll be the problem if that means that I get to stay close to you guys and you don't have to look at yourself. This is what happened in my case. I wasn't really sure what happened to the other aspects of me. All I knew was this personality of like, oh, I am the one who has the problem, because I didn't know it was scapegoating. I just knew myself as the one with the problems. There's a possible way that it can go. So, what are the consequences? Between people, the consequences are that the people who are doing the scapegoating do not look at their own pain. They get used to having the scapegoat in the role, and they avoid their own expansion. They avoid their own pain, they enable dysfunction, and they abuse the scapegoat. And then the consequences for the scapegoat is that the scapegoat either believes themselves to be the problem, or they have to leave the family in order to get out of that role. So the consequences are like the suffering of the scapegoat, the loss of belonging or connection. And the consequences do get a lot more serious. Like the consequences for the scapegoat can be that they end up killing themselves, wanting to kill themselves, or they end up committing a crime and they end up being scapegoated by all of society and put in prison. And the consequences also for the rest of society in that dynamic is that, like, societally, we have a split, the good ones and the bad ones, the civilians and the criminals, the police and the criminals. The consequences of scapegoating are very, very serious, very severe. Because we have a lot of people avoiding responsibility, and a lot of people with a responsibility placed on them that doesn't even belong to them. And this huge misunderstanding of responsibility creates a split, which is enabling a dysfunction in the ones who are identified with the good ones, and creating a lot of destruction in the ones who are in the scapegoated role. There is a shame from this side, and there is a powerlessness on this side. What are the solutions? So first, it's important to recognize some pitfalls. I'm gonna go into what I've just said in another way now. So I said that we have the good ones and the scapegoated ones. So a tendency of the ones who have been scapegoated, or even looking at this now when I'm describing the scapegoat as the one over here, the bad one, the criminal, the mentally ill child, the excluded one, the scapegoat. Let's be aware of opposite scapegoating. So if I'm a scapegoat and I'm healing and I'm recognizing that yes, I've been scapegoated in the dynamic, the shadow of this is to look at the ones who scapegoated me and to scapegoat them. So if we look at society and we look at criminals and we go to the perspective of a criminal and we recognize, yes, you have been scapegoated. From the perspective of the criminal, I'm the scapegoat, I'm the criminal. I'm gonna look at the the good ones in society, and I'm going to scapegoat them. I'm going to say it's their addiction to goodness and rightness that put me in the position in the first place. That's the scapegoat. So it's being aware of like opposite scapegoats. It's a funny little trap. It's necessary in the healing process of a scapegoat to scapegoat the other side. And then there comes a point to see it more objectively and realize, I created a scapegoat in the opposite way. So the other pitfall is to think that there can be an isolated problem in humanity. There can be a problem in an individual that does not relate to the rest of society. That's an absolute misunderstanding. It's also a misunderstanding that there can be something going on in a part of me that's isolated from the rest of me, that has nothing to do with the rest of me. Now, in this universe of oneness that we live in, that's impossible, and it's a total misunderstanding. And understanding it that way, that something is an isolated problem, is a disconnected or separated way of perceiving things. Because in order to perceive there to be an isolated problem, I have to be disconnected from the way that everything affects each other. Now that we recognize those two pitfalls, what are the solutions? So internally, the solutions look like having a look at the family dynamic that I grew up in. Was I scapegoated? Was another member of my family scapegoated? What was it about them that was scapegoated? And then it's to find that aspect of me and to re-own that aspect, and to find what is the opposite aspect, and to recognize this dynamic happening inside of me, and to re-own all of those aspects inside of me, and to recognize the scapegoat and possibly the opposite scapegoat. And then to bring that awareness that there's no isolated problems, and to recognize that the responsibility is shared. And so it's more to look at the dynamic that's happening and find ways of working together with shared responsibility to find win-wins, to understand each part and to meet the needs of each part in a win-win kind of fashion. Or what are the solutions between people or societally? So we can do this in our friend groups, in groups of people, if you have them. By looking at the dynamics in the group, is anyone being scapegoated? Am I being scapegoated? If you notice somebody else is being scapegoated, perhaps advocate for them and present the dynamic to the group and ask everyone to come together and look at it. And if you are being scapegoated, I invite you to advocate for yourself, to speak up, to say what is happening. And now if you are in a healthy group of people who are open to inner work, they're going to want to work on the dynamic with you. If you're in a group of people that's super dysfunctional, they're going to want to continue scapegoating you because it serves them to not have to look at themselves. And at this point, if that happens, you are not safe, and I invite you to leave. Because when people are locked in, not wanting to take responsibility together, mutual responsibility for the group dynamics, that is another way of saying I want to continue in this dynamic even though it hurts you, because it serves me, because I don't have to look at myself, because I get to see myself a certain way. That's really unsafe for you if you're the scapegoat. So in that moment, we've got to get out. So as a society, what are our solutions? To recognize that criminals are scapegoats, and that the problem does not begin with the isolated crime. It's not possible. It begins with the family that person grew up in, every individual in that family. It begins by recognizing that all of our social groups are all playing into one another and creating many, many dynamics. and that any problems that we have in an isolated place are just an alarm bell, a shadow going off, and we actually have a problem going on as a race. And that the solution is to take mutual responsibility. How am I playing into this? What aspect of me does that criminal represent? What aspect of me do the police represent? And how is this dynamic of good and bad playing inside me? So when it comes to solutions now, the between people and the internal solutions are going in and out of each other, because there is not a direct split between inside and outside. Everything is one. So it's about recognizing the scapegoat and the one doing the scapegoat inside of me, and how they both exist in each other as well. There is a scapegoat within the scapegoater, and there is a scapegoater within the scapegoat. So it's to recognize how both sides of that coin are playing out inside of me, and also how they're playing out in society, and bring the medicine of mutual responsibility. In that, okay, this part is having this role, this part is having this role, this person is having this role, this person is having this role, I'm having this role. Together we are all creating this dynamic. How can we come together and have a look at what we are creating? And how can we do it better? How can we recognize that there is a person or group of people that we are scapegoating? Because there is an aspect of each one of us inside that is being scapegoated, that is being condemned as bad and wrong. How are we addicted to seeing ourselves as good and right? And how is this dangerous? And to learn more about this concept of understanding responsibility accurately, I invite you to watch my YouTube video, which I will link on the screen now. The Most Dangerous Blind Spot Misunderstanding Responsibility. That's the name of the video, because I go more deeply into this solution of how to correctly place responsibility for the best interest of everyone involved. Not like the way that it's functioning at the moment, where it's benefiting these people and it's really hurting these people, or it's benefiting these aspects of us and it's really hurting these aspects of us. It is confronting and confusing to look at taking mutual responsibility as a race, because it involves taking responsibility of all of my internal parts, and it involves each person taking responsibility as a part of the whole, mutual responsibility for the way that we affect each other, and making commitments to show up in ways that reduce harm and that create positive change by recognizing the pain that we are causing inside of ourselves, perpetuating inside of ourselves and with each other, and allowing ourselves to feel that, to own the aspects of us that are good and bad and right and wrong, and to recognize ourselves as something beyond that can contain all of that, and act in the best interests of each part of us. That it's brave to take responsibility instead of scapegoating a part of us or a part of society. And that it's quite scary the way that we have it set up in this moment, that it's the common way of thinking to look at someone in prison and think they're bad and I have nothing to do with it. It's terrifying to me. Find and integrate the criminal inside of you. Find and integrate the police inside of you, because ultimately when there's a scapegoat and a family, the family's acting like the police and the scapegoat is acting as the criminal. The family's actually creating a criminal, little do they know. And the criminal is gonna relate to the world as though everyone is the police. And then they're gonna scapegoat the police. Yep. And understandably so. So whichever point in the process you're in is okay. If you're in a moment where you've been scapegoated and you need to get fucking pissed at your family, get fucking pissed at your family. Because that anger can put boundaries back in the right place. Like a raw divine expression of anger is okay. It's okay to get angry, to feel angry. It's okay. Deep down, none of us want to hurt anyone else. That's the paradox in the anger, because the anger is not about hurting the other people. It's about, I need you to listen to how you are hurting me. So if you're the scapegoat and you need to get angry, it's okay to get angry. If you're the scapegoat and you need to leave, it's okay, leave. If you are on the other side and realizing that you have been scapegoating someone, you are not bad and wrong for doing that. You do have bad and wrong within you, but you're not bad and wrong for doing that. The reason that you did it, is because of the pain inside of you. So I invite you to get support with that pain. I also invite the scapegoat to get support with that pain. Everyone gets support with your pain. A practitioner. The best practitioners that I've ever found so far are Teal Swan's completion process practitioners. So that's where I invite you to go if you need a practitioner. No one is the demon in this scenario. The bottom line of it is, like, when all the dynamics are untangled, there is no such thing as a scapegoat. What do I mean by that? There is no objective truth which says, yes, it's this aspect of existence that is the problem. No, that doesn't exist. It's this dynamic of the scapegoat and the ones who are the non-scapegoats. This is human dynamic. There is no objective truth to it. It's a dysfunction that we have. And it's okay. And it creates very real consequences. And it's real in the sense that we need to deal with it. Like, just because there is a high dimensional objective truth, which is like, oh yes, the scapegoat does not exist. Yeah, from that perspective, but from the human perspective, it absolutely does exist, and it's absolutely harming people, and we absolutely need to take responsibility for it and work through it. Then perhaps by working through it in a conscious way, it won't exist anymore, but not because we've denied its existence, because we've actually worked through it. Because it's dangerous in spiritual circles to use these high dimensional truths to negate lower dimensional truths. It's abuse. It's the same, it's scapegoating. It's like, oh yes, you who believe that are just lower vibrational. I'm high vibrational because I know that it doesn't exist. Then it's gonna cause like the same dynamic. Like, this one is the high and mighty, and this one is the human. It's like the rejection of the human aspect. So perhaps the biggest scapegoat in the spiritual community is our humanity, our human aspect. And that's extremely dangerous, because the split between the human aspect and the transcendent aspect, or the non-physical perspective, the human perspective and the non-physical perspective, this is a split. Yes, we have 2 points of perspective, and the goal is to be integrating these perspectives by owning them through unconditional love. So to deny that one exists causes a bigger and bigger and bigger gap, more and more pain, and becomes more and more dangerous the further they get apart. That is something that can lead to suicide. It's an extremely dangerous split. It's also something that in groups of people can lead to people being excluded, which, having a lack of belonging, a lack of connection to the social group, it makes people feel as bad as suicidal. It can do. It can also make people feel like hurting other people. And a big cause of that is the rejection of our humanity in spiritual circles. That happened to me. Thankfully, I re-owned my human aspect and stopped scapegoating it inside of myself. And what happened as a result of that is I had to leave all of the people who wanted to keep me inside of that role. Because in that moment, I realized that the people who were not listening and responding to my pain when I was presenting this dynamic wanted to keep that dynamic going because it made it so that they could look away from their pain and their responsibility. That was causing me to feel suicidal. And they were so disconnected from their own human aspect that they didn't even respond to my suicidality. And that horrified me. And that makes it so important for us to be aware of our human aspect and how fucking important it is to own it. And I'm sick of this spiritual shit saying things that demonize the human aspect. I also recognize the possible opposite scapegoat happening in this moment and understand why that happens, because they're in so much pain that they don't want to face that. At the same time as understanding it, that's not an excuse to not take responsibility. So I will continue to place responsibility on other people where it belongs, at the same time as taking my own responsibility and seeing what parts of me are rejecting the part of me that they are rejecting, so that I can continue my own integration as well. Internal responsibility and mutual responsibility are coexisting. They're one. It's not possible to take internal responsibility and say that there's only self-responsibility, there's no group responsibility. No, self-responsibility and group responsibility are one, because as we're taking responsibility for our internal aspects, we're then going out into the world and mirroring that. The outside is the inside. Take it one step deeper. Oneness is what's happening here. The inside is the outside. Self-responsibility implies group responsibility, because everything is one. And scapegoating is ultimately about misplaced responsibility. So I really recommend, again, going to watch my other video, which I will link in the description box, which is about misunderstanding responsibility, because it's really interconnected with scapegoating. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it there for today. That probably was not everything that I can say about scapegoating. Perhaps we'll do another video in the future, or perhaps you got what you need for now. Let's see. I'm just gonna trust this feeling of completion, the end of the video. So I would love to hear from you. Please comment your experience with this video. Please comment and connect as a community. Let's become an intentional community in the comments. Let's connect with each other authentically. What's your experience with scapegoating? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you. So, to learn more about Lois Ancestral and the vision behind this channel, I invite you to read the pinned comment. It has all the information that would fit into my YouTube bio, so you can see an overview of what this channel is about. And you can make a decision as to whether you would like to support my vision financially, and you can do that via PayPal. The link for my PayPal is also in the pinned comment, and it's always in the description box below as well. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has donated. It's amazing and it means a lot to me. I appreciate you. So take care of yourself. Thank you for the bravery to explore deeply what is going on. See you soon. Bye for now. Namaste.